Hello guys, and welcome back to our tutorial. And in this new part here we're gonna be actually starting to play with a UI. There's just some couple of setups I want to do here, right? Is that I want to move this component here actually to our player controller, the BPC inventory. But to do that, we're gonna have to do a couple of things. The reason why I want to move this to the player controller is because if in the future you want to create a multiplayer system and things like this, it's always better to handle this kind of things on the player controller. So to do that, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna open up the demo player character, and I am also gonna go open up here our player controller, right? For now. Okay, let me just open this in full editor, and what I'm gonna be adding here is I'm gonna add the component here, which is the BC inventory, right? Cool. Right now it's not doing anything, so I'm just gonna leave it in there. I am gonna remove this from the player. Yeah, I'm just gonna delete this. Note that if you press play right now, this will actually start to throw some errors, right? Because we don't have that reference anymore. So if you press play here, nothing is gonna happen. But we're gonna fix this right now. Right, to fix that, what we're gonna have to do here is basically we need to send the player reference to the controller or the controller reference to the player. Whatever you want to do. What I like to do here is always to, I think it's best to send the player reference to the controller, and then we get both of them, right? So what I'm gonna do here on the controller here, I'm gonna go to blueprint. I'm gonna create a new variable. I'm gonna call this player, right? Or what can I call it? Player ref. Yep. So the player reference. So this is gonna be the type of BP RPG demo character. Yeah. So we got the reference of our player. I'm just gonna make this public. There we go. Cool. Compile and save. Now on here, what I'm gonna do here is there's an event in here called on begin play, which we don't have, right? So don't worry. So I'm gonna right click here. I'm gonna call on begin on event begin begin play beginning. Let's check here. Actor play on. I cannot find this event. Let me just have a look if I can actually look it in here. I think we may are actually using this already. So graph add begin play. There we go. It's begin play. Event begin play. Just forgot the name. Right. So what I'm gonna do here, yeah. I'm gonna send the player reference. Yeah, I'm gonna send this guy reference to the controller, so we can do all the items, logic and UI things in here. The reason why we're doing this is because it's easier to access things on the player controller, because that you can actually have access to the server and the player local at the same time. We're not going to be doing anything too crazy with multiplayer, but it's just nice to know why we're doing this way. You could easily just put this inventory on the player, you'll be fine, but I think it's nicer because this is most the real case scenario, like you're gonna actually put things like inventory on the player controller instead of the player palm. In the player palm you handle things more like health and things like that, but let's do this. Right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna call method get controller. Yeah, get controller, and if I just do a print here, right, what this node does, begin play, it will execute when you first start the game. Alright, so let's put this for 10 seconds, for example. Let's change this color to something else. I just want to display, to show you what it does. So it should tell me the name of the controller. So right now, that gives me the access to the controller. So we kind of always have the access to the controller here at any point. But what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm gonna get the reference of this controller on the player, right? There are several ways you can actually do this. We could do using interface, which will be the proper way to do it. But for things like this, which will run only one time, we don't need to get very technical, very complicated. So if you can just make it simple, let's do it, make it simple. So right now we need to access, for example, the player inventory accessing here, right? But we can't, because right now this is just a generic player controller. So we need to cast this as this type. So the way we do this is we call from there, right? We call something called cast to, and then we put the name of the class, so PC, because the player controller, RPG demo controller, right? Right now, this has the reference. This is casting this object to this, so we get a reference of this controller. Right now, what we can actually do with this is basically get inventory component. So this reference here, yeah, is the reference of this inventory there. I know this sounds maybe a little bit complicated, but once you get your head around it, it makes your life easier. So you kind of start to organize yourself better, and then you put stuff, you know, oh, this belongs to the player, that belongs to the other one, and then we can actually get, you know, your head around this, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a reference to this, and we're going to create promote to a variable, and we're going to call this player controller ref. And this is going to be public. We can actually ask this public. Not sure if you're going to need it after, but yeah. And just to make this a little bit cleaner, we're going to make sure that get the controller reference, right? The way I add the comments in here, yeah, just in case you didn't follow here, I just select the nodes, press C, or you can just select the nodes here, right click, and there's something here called comments, create a comment section from the selection. There you go. It's just easier to press C, right? And there's another thing here as well that I want to do it, which is basically we have a variable in here called player reference that sometimes I know you can do stuff like get player palm. That will give me the player instance. I think it's get palm as well. But in this case, we can set this reference as we get that variable here as well. So what we can actually do, because we have the controller reference here, yeah, I'm just gonna set set player reference to be ourself. So let me just do here, and what's the player reference is self, yeah. So at this point, what we're doing here is just telling the controller, look, this is the player reference, just save it in here. We may use it after, so you don't have to cast it and do all sorts of stuff. Right, so right now we kind of all set to go. This is still not gonna work because we still have to do a couple of testing and things in there. But let's do this right now. So the next step we want to do here right now is open up this object, edit the item now. And we're gonna have to change how this logic behave, right? So what we can actually do here, right, is something a little bit simple, but we can actually make sure that you know, does work properly. So we kind of have to make sure that this has the controller. So let me see if I can actually get controller from here. Get controller. Get controller. That does not give me the controller, which is not bad, but we can actually work with this. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to go to our player in here, right? And we're gonna have to create kind of a method that will interact with this. The easiest way we can actually do this in a way that is more, let's say, generic, or in a way we can actually interact with, is by doing something called creating a parent class, and then we can actually just extend everything from this. So what I'm gonna be doing here is I'm gonna just for now I'm gonna cast this cast to character to BP inventory, sorry, BP RPG. Oh, that's the, sorry, this is the component we need to cast the actor. So we're gonna, for now, cast to RPG demo character for now. And let's first see if this works, right? So what we're gonna do here is, if the component, if this actor, for some reason, does not have this class attached to it, what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna say, oh, please check the controller. So let's get controller. And then we can also check if it has these components attached to it. So we're gonna do a print, and we're gonna do hello. Let's see if this actually works. So if that works, we can actually make this a generic thing. So it's not working at the moment. So we're gonna do it a generic way then, right? So what we're gonna do here, guys, is something more simple than actually doing all this, right? So what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna go to where is our component here, to the player component here, and so we're gonna have the BPI inventory interaction. So we're gonna open up this in here, and we're gonna create another function there that we're gonna call this let's say actor has inventory. Yep. And this will return true or false. So this is gonna be true, has inventory, right? So what we're gonna be doing here. So it's gonna return a classing has inventory. You can actually give a more description name on this. So the idea is that we're gonna be reusing this interface in here to tell us if the player or any other object can interact with this. The reason why I'm doing this way is because we can make it that's more generic, right? So we don't have to keep returning, keep doing stuff with cast. There's also another thing here that we need to do here is we need to actually add the actor reference, and this type's gonna be a actor, right? It's just type of actor, and it's gonna be object reference. Because the way we need this reference is because when we return the actor here, we can just plug it in there, and that should actually return us the interaction.